I'm going to present Malik, our friend. She has studied and experienced the spirituality of ancient cultures for over 15 years, beginning with ancient insular cultures, including Hawaii. She met the Keros, direct descendant of the Incas. With them, she participated in the first integration of the native people and in the 100 Days Pangean pilgrimage, Inca Trail, the first after 700 years, in the Andes mountain of Peru, Bolivia, and Argentina, at more than 4,400 meters high. She has traveled almost all over the world, and as a public speaker and podcaster, she shares her experience summarized in what she called Gopia, guiding personal growth in a comprehensive way for good living. She is the author of Kapanyanyan, a series of 6 books, the first 2 already published in English and translated into Spanish. She is also in the process of co-producing the 2-part documentary Kapanyan and Yacta al-Chacuy de Quisqueya. She presented as a full member of the Center of Humanist Studies of the Americas, the spirituality of the Taino and Caribbean culture of the Dominican Republic, and the traces of slavery in Hispaniola. She is preparing her Af-America investigation for 2024. Welcome, Mali. Welcome all.
Thank you. Thank you, Juan. Welcome, everyone. And thank you for joining us. Do you want me to keep going, Juan? No. Unmute your microphone.
Okay. Wait a minute, please. Okay. I am ready.
Okay. I'm trying to. Okay. Welcome, everyone. As you already seen in the flyer, I'm just going to go ahead and do a little presentation about this activity. It's a book club, which we have decided in SEA to begin a book club. And just a minute. And so the first book that we chose, it's called The African Presence in Early Asia. And this is a group of professors, especially these 2, Dr. Rukono Rashidi and Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, a group of more than 10 professors. Each one worked on different theses in the early presence of African people in Asia. And so they put together all these theses and they combined it into this book that we're reading. And also within that research that they did and with everybody, they also came up with 3 series. This one is the first one, and then the other one is African presence in early Europe, and the third is African presence in early Americas. So we chose to start with this one. We hope that you can read along. Right now, what I'm going to be doing is doing a presentation of a summary or the introduction of what we're going to be seeing in the book and what we're going to be reading about. And if you can get the book, or let us know if you need to get the book. We have it online, and we can share. It's very difficult to find these books. So we hope that you appreciate this information and the richness that it brings to humanity. All this information was done during the 10 years, and it was back in the 80s, and it has gone through different editions. So we're going to be looking at the latest edition. And so I'm going to be going over, and at the end, please write down your comments, your questions, anything you want to add to the information that we're going to be providing, so that we can go ahead and present it without interruption, so that we can do it in a timely manner, and that way we can leave everything else for the end. So we're going to begin, like I said, the book, and these two gentlemen here are already our ancestors. And so we are very appreciative of them for compiling the richness and the wealth of this information, which we're going to be seeing during this presentation. And so what they say is that, in summary, they sustain that the history of African presence in Asia is one of the most significant, challenging, and least written about aspects of the global African experience. It covers a time span of more than 90,000 years and encompasses the largest single landmass on Earth. As the first modern humans, as hunters and gatherers, primitive horticulturalists, and sophisticated agriculturists, kings and queens, poets and prophets, sages and scientists, servants and slaves, African people have known Asia intimately from the very beginning. Even today, after the entire series of holocausts and calamities, the African presence in Asia may exceed 200 million people. The next slide, one, please. So we're going to be covering the Pangean epoch. And so as we see here in the map, how migration began, and this is going to go back more than 500 years within this era. So what we're asking is for you to kind of like imagine the time frame of these different periods. We're going to be mentioning some years, but we're also asking that you can do this or imagine this in our mind, so that we can have a better understanding when this all began. And it began, and then the migration continued. It wasn't just this first migration. The migration kept on with the different ending with the Homo sapiens sapiens, which is us. Okay. Next one. What we're going to see here is the Chinese DNA confirmation. And as you can see, let's see, so I'm trying to. A group of scientists from China, Russia, India, and Brazil, the National Human Genome Center of the Institute of Genetics of the University of Fudan, and they took about 200,000 DNA samples from 160 ethnic groups across all of East Asia. And Professor Jing Li said, we didn't see a simple individual that could be considered a descendant of Homo erectus in China. Rather, they were all descendants of our ancestors in Africa. And he also received the award, the Chang Award, for that distinguished academic achievement. Next one. So in synthesis, we're going to be looking at the introduction of the book. And they began by asking these simple questions. And so those questions were, who are the Black people of Asia? What is their significance in the annals of history? Precisely what have they done and what are they doing now? These are extremely serious and fundamental questions. Their message to us is that they hope that our readers will conclude that this anthology, The African Presence in Early Asia, offers serious and fundamental answers to those questions. Next one. So in summary, we're going to be looking at Sumer, or the Blackheads. These were the first formative civilization of Western Asia. It's also known as Mesopotamia. We're also going to be looking at the Blacks in Elam and Susa, its capital. In Arabia, the Mahra and the Sabeans. We're also going to be looking at the Indus Valley in China and the Colchis and the Black enslavement in Asian lands. So Sumer, or the Blackheads, just a minute. Based on Rukuno, he said, does not downplay, for example, the complexity of the question of racial composition in ancient Sumer, the first formative civilization of West Asia, admitting that the population was not racially homogeneous, but that he demonstrates forcefully with pictorial, cultural, and skeleton evidence that the majority element in Sumerian civilization were Black. They were Black migrants from the Nile Valley who call themselves the Blackheads. He poses the question, if they were Mongoloid types, and this was simply a term of Black hair, as some historians argue, why should they seek to distinguish themselves in this way from other Asiatics who also have Black hair? Their Blackness or Africanness, which is glorified in this term, Asiatics who would also be Black hair. Oh, I'm sorry. The Blackness of Africanness, which is glorified in this term, may be seen in the skeleton evidence. Rashidi also shows that chronologists finding roughly the same shape, head shape, nasal index, brow ridge, variations in Ethiopic or Africoid skulls in interior Africa, as skulls found in excavations in ancient Egypt and Sumer. Try to create a new nebulous classification such as Eurafricans, Mediterraneans, Hamites. These he identified as ethnocentric synonyms for Black people. The next one. Here we're going to be looking at also in the book, the Elam and its capital Susa. He also introduced to us the Blacks in Elam and in Susa, its capital. Elam was the first high culture in which is now Iran and Persia. He shows how Elamite cultural forms, their goddesses, art motives, weapons, and scripts link them back to the Nile Valley so that one could actually speak of Elam as a Kushite colony with its Susania heartland. Extremely dark populations still hover on the borders of modern Persia. The whole country, according to one authority, were originally Negritos who probably stretched along the northern shores of the Persian Gulf in India. Next one. So now we're going to be looking at, in the book, we're going to be going in depth into these topics. This is just a summary of what we're going to be looking at. So now we're going to be looking at Arabia. It's also like much of Asia, was initially populated by Blacks. Some of the surviving Black populations, known as Bedois, are the major portion of the Mahra population found still in the southern extremities of Arabia. Meaning, the word Mahra meaning bitter, it means also horse and beauty. It's a feminine name whose meanings are as diverse as its roots, with Hebrew and Arabic origins. These are, no, not yet, the Sabeans. There are also the Sabeans. Yeah, you can change it, one. A mix of East Africans and nomads from the north and central sections of the Arabian Peninsula. Out of this mix came the most famous Black queen in history, Makeda, the Queen of Sheba, who placed her son by Solomon on the throne of Ethiopia, starting a line that was lasted until the late Halil Salis. Another mix of Ethiopians and South Arabians occurs in the Tigre province of Ethiopia and led to the powerful kingdom of Axum, whose rise to power over South Arabia is briefly outlined. Readers who seek further details on the very early peopling of Arabia by Africans should read Drusilla Houston's essay, Ethiopians in Old Arabia, which was condensed by Rashidi for the purposes of our 1985 issue. The African presence in Arabia is of particular interest inasmuch later periods since Arab was the home of Islam and Muhammad. While some have speculated that Muhammad may have been of African lineage, some say his mother was Nubian. We know for certain that Bilal, one of his disciples, certainly was. Bilal was a pivotal figure in the development of Islam and has been referred to as a third of the faith. Next. So we're also going to be looking into the Indus Valley civilization. The African presence in the Indus Valley civilization occupies the attention of the two major essays in this issue, Rukono Rashidi and Wayne Chandler. They both present their case with persuasive eloquence and well-researched data, but are in strong disagreement over the role played by the Dravidians in the Indus Valley civilization. Rashidi said, I think it is necessary for me to restate the case in order to clarify the nature of the disagreement and perhaps to resolve it. Following the light of my own experience of similar archaeological and historical problems. So they mentioned the Rigveda, chapter 9, 40.41.1. It states that the Dasyus were dark-skinned. And as we know, the Rigveda is the oldest known Vedic Sanskrit text. Its early layers are among the oldest extant texts in any Indo-European language. Rashidi portrays the Dravidian as an ethnic type characteristics in straight to wavy hair texture with distinct Africoid features. He takes the view now widely accepted that these Dravidians were the founders of the Indus Valley complex. He identifies them with the hated Dasas or Dasyus or blacks of the Rigveda. The adversaries of the invading Aryans, they were the same people who later became the Sudras. The conquered black masses reduced in Aryavada or Aryan land to the status of slaves. He asserts that these people provided the stimulus for the Indus Valley civilization, which reaches its height between 2200 and 1700 BC. This is known as the Harpen phase. The Indus Valley was dominated by two great cities, Harappa and its sister city, Mohenjo-Daro. Chandler, however, argues that although blacks were the foundation of the Indus Valley civilization, they were not the later Dravidians, but the original layer of Ethiopian blacks, known as negritos. In the Proto-Australoid, the Harappans, he contends, were a fusion of just these two Africoid types. He feels that the Dravidians came in too late to have affected Harappan civilization, since the occupation of the Indus Valley sites go back 9,000 years. There is a middle distance between these 2 points. Although they appear to be in clear opposition, it is obvious that the Dravidians did not originally occupy these sites, and that the Aboriginal blacks were responsible for the first culture of the Indus Valley. It is equally obvious that it is not until about 2200 BC that a sudden leap in the Indus Valley occurs, and an Aboriginal culture with low technology explodes overnight into a highly advanced civilization. Chandler himself makes that the bricks of Mohenjo-Daro are as late as circa 2000 BC, even though the actual occupation of the site goes back several millennia before that. We must therefore conclude that upon an Aboriginal layer of native base, an outside force built the Harappan base. The evidence of cultural loans from the Dravidian is in this period are too concrete to be dismissed. Walter Fairservice Jr. in the script of the Indus Valley, reprinted in this volume from Scientific American in March 1983, states that the language of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro was an early Dravidian tongue. What we have, therefore, is the blend of early Aboriginal Black with a later, more advanced African or African Asiatic element, the Dravidian. Chandler brilliantly photographed it, not only vivified the African faces of these ancient times, but his dramatic narrative conveys to us a sense of modernity of African Asiatic cities. we learn of the creation of a central sewage system, bathrooms with drains that carry waste to the sewers under the main streets. Every house with its own private well, a great public bath with carefully made floors that empty into the underground sewers, the bath water changing at regular intervals. He even evokes the dust of passing traffic on the 30-foot wide streets and the privacy of the people whose windows open only on their central courtyard, not on the street. Next one. So now we're going to go into the early China. We enter early China with the Black Dwarfs. James Bronsung introduced us to the first Chinese emperor, Fuzi, in 2953 to 2838 BC, who is a woolly-haired Negro. He is probably half historical and half legendary, like Osiris. His achievements, creation of government, social institutions like marriage and writing, far too broad and sweeping to be credited to a single individual. But this is the usual story with first dynasties where the plural becomes fused into the singular as the time distance between the event and its much later recording tends to turn several real leaders into a mythical or divine one. It is significant, however, that he should be represented as a divine Black in recognition of the African beginnings of culture in certain parts of China. What is particularly interesting is that the Shang dynasty, 1766 to 1100 BC, was largely a Black dynasty, and that the Shang were given the name of Naki, Na for Black and Ki for men, by the Mozo because of their very dark complexion. The Chao, who conquered the Shang, described the inhabitants of the area as having Black skin. Next. So now we're going to be looking at the Colchis. African civilizations. The main thrust of his essay, Egyptian Civilization in Colchis of the Black Sea, is the Colchis may have been established nor by the Black armies of Sesostris, but by the Blacks in a large expedition by Ramses III. Colchis is where Jason sailed with the Aryans in the Greek myth, as Jerabasoi presents a close set of parallels which link the major elements of the Argonauts myth with cultural traits and artifacts datable to the Ramses the Third dynasty period. The most striking of these Ramessid traits is that of the golden ram of Phrixus with a snake overlooking it, a most unique design which exactly matches the prow of the solar ship of Ramses III. Next. So we're also going to be looking into what it is called the Black Gods. John G. Jackson in Krishna and Buddha of India, Black Gods, presents startling parallel between the lives of Krishna, 1200 BC. Krishna is the Hindu god of love, compassion, and protection, known as the Dark One. He is often depicted with dark blue skin. Krishna is an avatar of the god Vishnu, but he is always also worshipped as a god in his own right. Gautama Buddha, 600 before BC, and Jesus, 100 BC or 33 AD, the parallel between Krishna, the Black Christ, Christ of India, and Jesus of the Gospels are so remarkable that the latter almost seems to be a reincarnation of the former. Some of the major mythological elements surrounding these men surrounded the Buddha also, who is represented in early statuary as a man with woolly hair and Afrocoid features. Jesus himself, as we have shown in the Nile Valley civilizations issue, appears in his first physical representation as a man with woolly hair with what we would be described as Afro-Semitic features. This is on the back of a coin struck in the time of the Roman Emperor Justinian II. These Christ figures or prophets are all related to the same tradition, although each appears roughly 600 years after the other. What these parallels are meant to suggest, we do not know. Some feel that they prove Jesus is a fiction and that the story of his life is a reworked version of an early Christ figure. But it seems to us that the uniquely individual style of the sayings of Jesus, rather than the duplicable drama of his actions, the main actions of a prophet, after all, tend to follow a pattern. Establish that Jesus did exist as a historical figure who, after death, was clothed in a mythological raiment best suited to make him universally acceptable. As we can look in the slide, we see there's a picture there from a Lutheran church in Missouri, and Jesus is painted there with curly hair, and his skin is dark. And you can see in the coin there, you can see that he was also with his curly hair. On the right-hand side on the bottom, we also see a representation of Jewish prisoners taken captive in Palestine by Assyrians 700 BC. That point with the Jews that we're going to be looking at in the book, it's going to be a very interesting information that we're going to be looking at. And it's nothing like we have been told. In slide 14, we can go to the next one. So we're going to also be talking about the Black bondage in Asian lands. They close with 2 essays. So we're going to be looking at this at the end of the book. They close with the Africans in the later slave period. Graham Irwin brings a new light to bear on the nature of slavery in certain parts of Asia. It is not confined to the familiar context with which we usually associate it in the Americas. Irwin informs us in his essay, African Bondage in Asian Lands, the Muslim societies from the Middle East, India, and Central Asia adopted the practice of using people from other lands for various specialized occupation who would be called slaves, but who might achieve high rank and status, as high as commander or even general in the military, and as high as a rank of prime minister itself in the bureaucracy. The rationale behind this is that if you have a slave that comes from somewhere else and you put him in a position of authority, he does not have kingship ties with the local people. That means that he tends to be loyal rather than disloyal. That means that he is unlikely, other things being equal, to head a coup d'etat. Because how can he rely on local support? This is not to deny that many Blacks were brought in also in the lowliest positions as house servants and concubines and eunuchs, or castrated men, but beyond the familiar relegation of the Black to the role of inferior, we must still see a significant and qualitative difference in a system which allowed several of the Abbasid caliphs of Baghdad to be African, and an African palace guard to become ruler of Bengal. Irwin cites an instance where a community of great African sailors known as the Siddis dominated the northwest coast of India, and their commander was appointed admiral of the Indian Ocean by Mongol emperor. The Siddhi are an ethnic minority group inhabiting Pakistan and India today, as we can see them there in the picture. They are primarily descended from the Bantu people of the Sang Coast in Southeast Africa, most of whom came to the Indian subcontinent through the Arab slave trade. Others arrived as merchants, sailors, indentured servants, and mercenaries. The most celebrated of all African rulers in India is Malik Ambar, the subject of Joseph Harris' essay. Ambar was brought to India in 1575. Born in Ethiopia, he had been a slave in the Middle East. In India, he became a trader. He recruited followers and built an army as his trading made him prosperous. He eventually developed such a strong army that he was able to establish himself as the power behind the throne. He invented highly innovative guerrilla warfare tactics, making him formidable and featured by those who challenged his state. He was a brilliant soldier, diplomat, and administrator. He appointed his own African ambassador to the court of Persia. He encouraged manufacturers. He built canals, mosques, and post office. He supported poets, scholars with pensions from the treasury of the state. Harris' chapter of Ambar is indeed one of the most inspiring in the history of an African in Asia. And also, we're going to see the birth of the caste system in India as well, in that area. And we're going to be recognizing also that Dasyus, an Aboriginal people in India who were encountered by the Indo-European speaking people who entered northern India about 1500 BCE. They were described by the Indo-Europeans as a dark-skinned, harsh-spoken people who worshiped the phallus. So now in the Rigveda in chapter 10.22.8, they describe the Dasyus as savages who have no laws, different observances, Axum, who do not perform riots, and who act against a person without knowing the person. And the Aryans were described as meaning, or Aryans or noble people in the Sanskrit language. And so this is where we see the caste system beginning. And of course, you can see on the slide And if you can, if you would like to also look into more information, you can do that also on your own, because the study is the reading that we're going to be doing. You're going to be also doing your own studies in different areas or different places that you can find. So as you can see, these people became what we call in the orange level, the Sudras. And they are the lowest rank of the caste system. They are normally artisans and laborers. A large portion of this caste is a product of the mating of an upper caste and an untouchable, or a Sudra. Asian texts support the claim that the Sudras exist to serve the other three castes. Next, Juan. So as they say, they worship the phallus. And as we can see, the phallus, the reason why it was worship was because they saw it as a giver of life. And on that note, they closed the book. The Black role in Asia, as elsewhere in the world, has been submerged and distorted for centuries, but it has not been totally eclipsed, and it rises now like a star which was hidden by a cloud, but never faded into the oblivion of the night. As Godfrey Higgins says in Analcalypsis, quoted in our book review by Gerson Williams, we have found that Black everywhere whenever we approach the origins of the nations. Chancellor Williams is the best known as the author of The Destruction of Black Civilization, Great Issues of Race from 4500 BC to 2000 AD. The Destruction of Black Civilization is a seminal work which distinct and imperceptible quality that is evident from the beginning, where Dr. Williams reproduces an anonymous Sumer legend. The Sumerians, an ancient people who flourished in the fertile river valley of the lower Tigris-Euphrates, were the architects of the earliest identifiable high culture in Asia, according to the Epoch. What became of the Black people of Sumer? The traveler asked the old man. For Asian record shows that the people of Sumer were Black. What happened to them? The old man sighed. They lost their history, so they died. And this was quoted by Ivan Sertima. Next one. Okay, the influence of African music in Asia. This section here has been suggested by Juan Manuel, that we incorporate the influence of the music, of African music in Asia. It's going to be a challenge, so we're also going to encourage everyone that participates in the readings to also try to study some of the music and the connection that they all have within that mass land of Asia. And so with this, we are going to finish this part of the book club with all these chapters that we just saw in a very short summary. Okay, so thank you very much for your patience and for being here today. So now we can go into anything that you would like to discuss, any questions that you might have, anything that you also might want to add. So now it's our time to share our thoughts.
Thanks, Malik.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Malik.
Thank you very much. It was very educating. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So, how could we access the books that you gave us as a source in the beginning? That you said that we should, order them or express our interest beforehand to.
Okay,
you
we're gonna try to for those that have not received it yet or wish to receive it, we're going to Juan Manuel it's going to take care of that. So he's gonna make sure
Yes.
that
We're
you
going
receive
to
it.
make a group in Telegram or WhatsApp.
Sí.
Please leave your cellular number, and I will send the book.
Yes. What is the same book that you are using as a base text for the presentation, Malik?
Yes.
Or there
yes.
is more information in it?
Well, what this presentation is basically the introduction of the book.
I see.
So within the introduction, they cover every topic that's going to be covered in the book. In the book, once we begin, it's going to go in depth within each topic
Stream.
yeah within each topic that we cover now. So it's very interesting, and it also is going to have pictures as well. And some of those pictures we can't find them anywhere. They're pictures that people have in their private museum, pictures that some museums have, because this was done by with the assistance also of the Smithsonian Museum. And so we're going to be they have pictures there in the book that we hardly find anywhere.
Mhm.
So it's very interesting.
Very good. Excellent.
Mhm.
Yeah, because in 1 hour you don't have time to explore in depth the maps and the different lines that connect one civilizational group with another one. But if we can go a bit in depth, it gives a different picture. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That's why we just said we're going to be giving a summary, so at least everybody can see what we're going to be covering, especially those people that join, because those that joined prior to the beginning of this lecture, they already received the book. So some of them have already been looking into the book. And so that's why we decided to do this kind of presentation, so that everybody can have an idea. And so, if whoever is interested in following, they can do it. Then we can share the book with them.
We ask
Mhm.
Juan Manuel then. Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
So I understood that we put our cell phone numbers somewhere. Where is it? We
In
The shots.
you can put it in the chat, your
in the
phone
chat?
number.
Okay,
Yeah. And do you have
Uh,
Instagram?
No, I
Telegram.
WhatsApp.
I mean, Telegram. I'm sorry.
Telegram.
Telegram.
No, I do not have Telegram. I have
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. Yes.
And Antonio?
Yeah, I have both. Yeah, Telegram
Okay,
and
okay,
WhatsApp.
Telegram. If it's
Yeah.
possible, Julius, please take the
WhatsApp.
Telegram app, because it's easy to send videos. It's very good.
What app were you recommending?
Telegram.
Telegram. Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
it's very, very good.
Yes. Okay. I will do that. But
And you can type
anyway,
your
yeah. Anyway, we are not in a problem since Antonio has Telegram. Because we are
Working together.
working very closely. So
Okay.
that is boils down to the same thing.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
I do it. Okay.
So and what's also interesting about the book is that instead of you going to all these essays that all these professors have worked on these theses and have prepared and have published them, what they did was they collected all of them, concerning that area. And they also did their own investigations as well. So we're going to be looking at topics, like we said, that are not found out there. And so with the three series that they came out with, which is the presence of Africa in Asia, in early Asia, the presence of Africa in early Europe, and the presence of Africa in early America. With those three, through the UNESCO asked them also to prepare so that they could work on a new history or world history to be able to present it in the classrooms, in schools, because the history that has been taught in school up to today has been taught, you know, the information has been erroneous. And so they also do with Sensertima and with Rashidi, which took over after Sertima passed. Then Rashidi took his place. They gather all all these studies, and then they presented it to UNESCO. And so we also have that information that Juan Manuel can share also for those of you who are interested in that information as well. But obviously, you know, we're still trying to see what's happening with that, because as we know, that information has been hidden for you know,
centuries.
And for the purposes that we know, because if all this information comes out, it's going to dismantle the narrative that is being taught. And so everything needs to change.
Exactly.
And mostly nobody wants that. So this is why, especially in the United States, we decided that, you know, we have to bring these stories out. We need to come and tell our story. We need to come and tell the truth and share with people. And so since the book is not in Spanish, I offer myself per request to do it in Spanish, so that those that have a more difficult difficulty trying to understand the English language, they can understand it in Spanish. So that's why I'm also doing it in Spanish, because we want as many people as possible this information to reach out to them, to as many people as possible.
Great. We are working in a grassroots level with a context of humanism and oriented towards the forum. We are trying to reach academia, but on the other hand, we are working at the village level. And every time that we mention and we show the videos of the first presentation that you did about this, people were so excited, even the children, and they want to verbally, because the culture of teaching in those places is verbal. They tell the story and everybody listens, and people feel so empowered by hearing the important role of the African cultures into the rest of the world, that changes completely the way of feeling, and make them very proud of being African. And yeah, it's amazing. It's fantastic.
Yes, and thank you, Antonio, for sharing that, and thank you also for sharing the video. I'm so glad, because at least, you know, we're sharing. And I think that what humanity needs right now is it's to reconcile with our own origin.
Exactly.
Because unless we reconcile, I have to reconcile with myself first, with my origin. And until I don't do that, it's going to be very difficult for me to be able to promote reconciliation to others. And so I believe that one of the things that humanity needs the most is to be able to reconcile with their origin. And so this is something that's going to help us as a human race to be able to reconnect ourselves with our human origin.
Exactly.
You see? And it's going to make a great difference in humankind, as we say, to be able to bring us closer, to be able to bring us, as we are all one.
Yes.
And we're not different than any other, because we all have two eyes. We're all Homo sapiens sapiens, you see. And like I mentioned before, the only difference is our chemicals in our body system. That's it. Why? Well, because one gets more sun than the other.
Mm.
You see, so that's it. And then, because of different issues, we have been separated, and some continue to keep us separated. But I think that this and what we're doing is, it's uniting, it's bringing us together, it's bringing us, to what we are, one human race.
And that is our project, to build up together the universal human nation that needs a common narrative, because otherwise, culturally speaking, it's very difficult to advance that way. So we are completely dovetailing in the pursuits and what we want to do in general. And it's fantastic. It's very complementary.
Yes,
Yes.
because this complements what was found in your previous, the first lecture, where we took off by this ancient African culture. I exist because you exist. That is and I remember how this was fascinating by the turn of the century, when I went to build the humanist movement in Zambia at that time, some 20 years ago, that I learned much more than I ever could bring to them, because I learned this Umuntu, Gnabantu. In Zulu, I exist. I am a person because you are a person.
Yes, thank you, Julius. Thank you. So we're really excited that this information is coming out, because like I said before, it's a chapter that's it's uniting humanity as a whole. And that the richness that comes out of the coming together as the human race is the wealth of humanity. Because when I come together with any other person anywhere in the world, we know each other, we understand that we are the same, and we find that connection. And so that's what we're trying to do also here, to be able to find that connection, because some people do have, a better understanding of their identity. But like Antonio said, people, especially in Africa, don't have that connection, So I think that this is going to be something that's going to bring us closer together as humanity.
Fantastic. Yeah, because colonization had that intention, in order to have accepted the fact that, as they attributed to be natural beings, So because they were naturals, and then they were inferior in every respect, and they could enslave them and sell them and keep them for centuries. But that is the terrible cultural damage of European colonialism over Africa. And that has to be reversed now, because really Africa is in an ascending moment in its history. And all these teachings will facilitate that process. It's excellent.
Yes, it's coming together. It's coming because one thing is for us to be able to promote the union upon the human race. And another thing is to know the history, because if you look at the history that we have now, it doesn't go with what we as a human collective race. It doesn't click.
Yeah.
With the narrative that we are currently having out there today, it doesn't match. You see, so this information, and I'm so grateful for our ancestors that did this work, because it's a lot of work. It was more than 10 years that they spent doing this work, and they were very meticulous. You're gonna see when you're reading the book, you're gonna see how meticulous they were, because they wanted to make sure that they brought the truth out. It wasn't just speculation, and it wasn't just by what I think or what my emotions are telling me. They didn't want to do that. They made a very, very strong effort on making sure that what they were bringing out and what they were sharing in this book and the other books were exactly the truth as it was, or as closely as it was to us, because this is what it's needed now, and the time is ripe.
Time is right. Yeah.
Surely.
Good.
Sure.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, it's really enjoyable.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very
Malik.
much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
okay.
Thank you.
And all our friends.
Thank you.
Thank you
Okay.
very
Take care,
much.
eh?
Okay.
Thank you,
Alright.
Malik.
Thank you
The
so
next-
much.
Touch.
The next
Thank you.
meeting
Yeah.
of the reading club will be March 22. Okay?
Yes.
20
Okay.
hours, Punta de Vacas.
Okay.
Please, I will send the book. Antonio, if you give me your cell number, please.
Yes, I put it in the chat now.
Did you put your number, Julius, in the chat?
Well, I could do that. Yes. Yes. You call it notes there, or no chat?
Where chat?
Yeah. No,
The
I put
chat
it in the
in
chat.
more 3
For
points.
sure. Yeah.
You click and you will find chat.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes I forget it. Okay. The idea is to read it. The chapter 1, Malik?
We're gonna be doing chapter 1, which
Okay.
is gonna be covering the
Okay, thanks.
Sumers and Elam.
Yeah. You have my phone number, so everything is.
34415. Okay, Antonio. 29 12 67. Okay, Antonio. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And if you know
You're
anybody
welcome.
else that might want that might be interested in joining the conversation, please invite them as
Okay.
well.
Yeah, and also
Yeah,
as
we
it
will.
regards, and also as it regards the book, because I know like anthropologists, what you call it,
Anthropologists. Yeah.
anthropologists that would be very interested in receiving
Okay.
a book as well.
Okay.
Because we are having on the 24th of March a small forum in Reykjavik in Iceland, where also Rafa will be there, who is coordinating the World March.
in 22.
And so there we are going to organize the itineraries for the forum after the march, so we don't collide. But we will have a coordinating meeting and a small forum where also members of academia will be present and politicians. There is a very interesting woman who is a member she's a councillor of the Reykjavik city council. Is young, is very influential, and she's half race is from
Tanzania.
Tanzania as a father, but she grew up in Iceland, so he's Icelandic, and he's
Yeah.
politically influential and young. And so, well, it's important when people like that get all this information, and they will be extremely interested in reading everything about it.
Okay.
And also the young socialists in a movement called Red
Reality.
Red Reality, that run a radio and a small television station where they produce webinars. And already they organized something where we had an initial presentation about what the forum was. We can send you a copy for you to see.
Yeah, yeah.
They
should
will
send a
want to have
copy.
the documentation and read everything about it. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's,
That was a program under the heading World Humanist Forum.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. We need to
Thank
spread
you.
out, we need to spread all this out. So the more people can read and learn, the better.
Exactly.
Lo
Exactly.
mejor.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much.